SASCO's 1 million signature campaign for free education about? Why is SASCO soliciting financial support from the public? Does NSFAS have a sound relationship with tertiary institutions? Why did higher education move the fund from universities to NSFAS? What time is it? It's question time. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Mpho Sedu. The Department of Higher Education and the National Student Financial Scheme, NSFAS, have admitted that the scheme is faced with many challenges. Alleged corruption and abuse of the fund are often cited as the root cause of these problems. The South African Student Congress, SASCO, has recently announced a 1 million signature campaign for free education. My guest today is Precious Banda. You're the Treasurer General of the South African Student Congress. And joining us from our Sea Point studio is the Chief Executive Officer of NSFAS, Dr. Msulwa Daca. Dr. Daca, welcome to the show as well. Precious, 1 million signatures. Yes. What's happening there? You're the Treasurer General. Tell us about it.
1 million signatures is a campaign that SASCO has decided to embark. It's a call for quality free education. It's a call for access and success in institutions of higher learning. It's a call for transformation of institutions of higher learning. It's a call to mobilize society, all stakeholders, private and public, to rally behind the decision that was taken long before by all progressive forces that a black child, a poor child, needs to have free education.
Now, somehow, you then bring NSFAS in.
Yes.
How?
We have to bring NSFAS in because our poor students get their funding from NSFAS. It is NSFAS that assists and loans resources to our poor students for their tuition and or academic needs. Now, we have faced serious crisis at the beginning of the academic year when NSFAS could not respond to the needs of financially and academically deserving students. They qualify to receive assistance for their education but could not be funded because NSFAS did not have money. So NSFAS is at the focal point of our campaign.
Where are they supposed to get money from?
NSFAS has to get money from the government, from the National Fiscus, from Treasury, from the Department of Higher Education.
So don't you think you're barking at the wrong tree? Why don't you go to Dr. Blade in Zamanda and tell him that we want you to give NSFAS money?
But the body that the government uses to fund poor and needy students is the National Student Scheme for funding.
Yeah, but you know that they are not the ones that...
They are not the ones that fund, but they are the ones that implement. They are the ones that mobilize these resources for this noble cause to assist poor and needy students.
So if they have not been given 10 billion and they are given 9 billion, what should happen there?
NSFAS has got means in which they also raise resources.
Okay. Dr. Daca, you've got means in which you are able to raise more resources. Why are you not doing that?
Good afternoon. I must just correct, I am Mr. Daca, Mr. Msulwa Daca. That's important to correct.
Okay.
Mpho, good afternoon to yourself and to the viewers of your program. I think as NSFAS, we understand the campaign by SASCO to say the sector should get more funding for students. And we also every year go to the department and to the National Treasury to also plead the case that there are students that are applying but could not be funded because the resources are not enough. Therefore, from our side, as NSFAS, we sympathize with the call for more money, but we understand the constraints also that government in general faces in terms of the choices that have to be made to fund different programs of government, because we understand that we are not the only program of government. That's that's how we understand it. It's almost like a fight of ideas at a national government level in terms of what will be our priorities and where we're going to put our money. And that's something that the Department of Higher Education and Training deals with together with other institutions at that level.
Is SASCO barking at the wrong tree here?
I understand that the focus is not necessarily. I think we have come in as a by the way, and if I understand from the Treasurer General of SASCO, we implement from the resources that we have been given. But also I should hasten to say that as NSFAS, we also do our best to collect money from various sources. We have other state institutions that put money into NSFAS for student funding, and that helps to increase the number of students funded. We also are increasing our efforts to improve on our recoveries, because the recoveries is also a method of making sure that we can fund more students, because we get former students that are now employed and gainfully employed to actually assist in paying for the current group of students.
Okay.
Therefore, from the side of us raising funds, we are always open to that, and we are always on the road and talking to various role players and seeing how can they assist the scheme to better fund more students.
The scheme cannot fund more students, Mr. Msura, because there's a lot of corruption there. What are you doing with that?
That's actually the word corruption is actually misplaced. I think from the scheme perspective, every rand that we have as a scheme goes to fund students in various places.
Yes, but those are the students I'm talking about. When I'm saying there's corruption, there's a lot of students who are getting the money whilst they're not deserving.
And that's the point I was going to, because when you say there's a lot of corruption there, it sounds like the corruption is in the scheme. But what we're trying to do now is to try and make sure that the system is much more efficient, that we can root out students who have wrongfully benefited from the system. And part of what we're trying to do, we have now started in 2014 a pilot project of centralizing some of the administrative functions, because the scheme currently gets administered in many different places, and therefore it's very difficult sometimes to control the quality of documentation, because this thing has got a lot to do with documents that gets produced by students. There's a lot of affidavits that have been found not to be containing truthful information.
Okay.
And therefore, by consolidating the application process, we're able to test some of the information that we are receiving.
Students are not helping the situation here, Precious.
We've heard the allegations about students not assisting the situation. But as SASCO, we stand convinced that poor students deserving to be assisted both financially and also academically must be assisted. And any elements of corruption must be rooted out and punished accordingly. But the talk about corrupt students abusing the system has been talked about in forums where we meet, and we've not yet been presented with anything that tells us that in this institution we've got 100 students going by these names that have been found to be corruptive.
Are you sure?
Yes. We have not, it's something that is being talked about, that students are corrupting the system. Students are corrupting the system. In our institutions of higher learning, we stand against corruption. SASCO is a progressive organization for the advancement of students' interests, and we stand against all elements of corruption.
Okay.
But if there's anything, corrupt that students are doing, we discourage that, and we are looking forward to those that must enforce.
And you condemn.
All these measures. Yes, we do condemn corruption.
And that's all you'll do.
No. We do condemn corruption. We do educate students and our members. We do actually advise them to use the system correctly and to present the relevant documentation that is needed. Hence, even now, we are still very suspicious about, saying students are abusing the system.
Okay.
To us, we see it as a measure that want to be used, not to advance what must be done. It's an excuse.
Okay. I have an excuse to go for an ad break. This is question time. Please don't go away.
We really know the hype is about the new and how about the new cabinet will actually perform. But what role should then the media be playing at this critical stage?
I would hope that the media will give the newly appointed people a benefit of the doubt.
Has the media lost its respect in this regard? We want you to tell us.
The many factors that are hidden from the public in terms of this ought to be brought out by the media.
Watch Media Monitor with me, Alicia Jali, Sundays at 9 a.m. only on the SABC News Channel.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. My guest today is Precious Banda. She's South Coast Treasurer General, and from our Cape Town studios, the CEO of NSFAS, Mr. Msulwa Daka. Now, welcome back. Mr. Daka, let me just come to you right away here. The relocation of this fund from yourselves to opening offices at tertiary institutions themselves, whereby you're no longer giving money directly to universities. How has this helped the availability of both information and resources themselves to students?
Thanks, Mpho. The process is a process that was started a few years back in terms of the determination that was made that for us to improve the quality of information and the quality of management, we need to have the scheme application process and approval process running on a central application system so that we can be able to manage information and share information with the relevant government institutions. This year is our first year of the implementation of that project. We have implemented it in few universities and few FET colleges. We're now busy assessing the results of year one of that project. And what is meant to achieve is meant to achieve standardization in terms of information that gets provided, but also to be able to link up the application process with other government databases and root out any form of misrepresentation in the application process. Because we agree with SASCO that the money that is with NSFAS must be routed to the deserving students, and therefore any attempt to route that money away from deserving students has to be condemned, and we as an institution have to deal with it. But because we're working with various agencies, in some instances it was difficult. But I must say, some universities have already been taking specific action on this thing. I know of specific cases that the universities have taken action and have taken some disciplinary action against students that were found to be providing falsified information.
Maybe you should share that information with SASCO, Mr. Msulwa, because SASCO is denying that there's any evidence of such.
I don't think that Precious is denying. I think she's saying that
actually. Let me give her
shared.
that opportunity to deny. Precious, deny.
What we are saying is that, the concern that the system has been abused has just been said abruptly without providing to us information, factual information regarding which institution has been such abuse. We would like to look forward, to that kind of information, and we are going to work hand in hand with NSFAS. We have done so in the past, and we continue to do so even moving forward. We're going to ensure that the students that are found wanting, because if someone who's not deserving gets the chance to, to use the resources that should have closed that another student that should have been in the system, that is unfortunate. But in itself, the fact that other students who would be found not affording, to pay for their fees but do not meet the means test, have to do everything possible to go against the requirements that have been set is another unfortunate eventuality that is happening. And hence we believe all poor students must be given a chance for free education, hence our call for free education to cater for all than the bureaucratic, stratifications and measures that cut across the poor and deny others a chance to be afforded to study.
Okay. You seem to have a uniform way of demand. And this is taken to the streets. Now you have this 1 million signature campaign. Are they effective?
Yes, they are. If you remember at the beginning of the year when there was a shortage of resources that were afforded by NSFAS, and our students in institutions of higher learning were not being assisted, registrations were closing, students not registered because they did not have resources. It took us as an organization to come and take a stance to say we're not going to allow this thing to happen. We had to go to the streets, we had to close campuses, we had to engage management, both NSFAS, the institution of higher learning, and including management of different institutions, and also the department. And then the result came out that the department had to inject certain funds to assist those students to register. So that is a gain. There's already a gain that we managed this year.
Mr. Daka, do these students scare you? I mean, they go onto the streets, they protest and all that.
I don't think their intention is to scare us. I think from us as NSFAS, it is our responsibility to ensure that deserving students are funded in this system, and any group that pressurizes us to do our job is actually welcome.
But now, why do you have to be pressurized to do your job, Mr. Msulwa, if you could have started that, by doing that from the onset? They wouldn't have lost...
It's done from the onset, Mpho. It's done from the onset because, as an institution, we have a reputation that we spend everything that we get given by government. Then if, for instance, SASCO goes to in the public space and says NSFAS must get more money, we welcome that because we're also doing the same thing to say we should get more money. The more voices say this, the more we'll be able to convince even institutions that are not necessarily government to invest in education, because education is not only a government problem, it is also a responsibility of the private sector to make sure that students are funded, because after all, the private sector employs people that are funded by the scheme, and they're also beneficiaries in the scheme. Therefore, when I say SASCO puts pressure, it does not only put pressure on NSFAS, it puts pressure on various other role players. That's why we welcome these engagements, but we also welcome engagements with various student bodies, just to explain to them where we are in terms of various initiatives that we're undertaking. There is a pilot project that we're now undertaking, we'll be explaining to various players. In fact, we had a meeting where SAUS, the body of SRCs, was represented.
Okay, let me just cut you short there. We need to go for an ad break. When we return, we'll continue with the show. Please don't go away.
Cultural Village is a large family homestead with 16 huts, each of them with its own specific purpose.
My responsibility, it is taking care of the family. As far as cleanliness is concerned, I have to make sure that I keep the home as clean as possible every morning when I wake up.
That's Kaleidoscope, Sundays 5:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. I guess today is Luzuko. Not Luzuko. I keep on confusing you. You're Precious Banda, the Treasurer General. I'm sorry about that.
Luzuko is the SG.
Oh, Luzuko is your SG. Okay. And Mr. Msulwa Daka is the Chief Executive Officer of NSFAS. Now, Mr. Daka, the Minister has proposed an audit process to identify deserving students. How is this going to work? Do you know?
This project is still being conceptualized by the department, and once conceptualized, we will be informed as NSFAS. I should also say that, you know, as part of our governance processes as NSFAS, we conduct various internal audits on the financial aid processes at various universities and various FET colleges. But that's not a comprehensive process. It's on a test basis we conduct so that we make sure that the decision-making that has been done at each university conforms with the rules that have been set down by NSFAS, and the money is not diverted to students that are not deserving. That helps to just make sure that the process is governed, the most deserving students get the money. But the initiative of the minister is a much bigger initiative that the department is still conceptualizing and putting together, and will also be involved at the implementation stage of that program.
Do you have capacity, though, Mr. Daka, to conduct this audit?
It depends on the scale, you know. There's not idle capacity sitting at our institution, but there's various other initiatives that we may get into, for instance, to pull together resources from various institutions or to even contract some of the work out. And that the department is going to conceptualize, and when they lay down the plan in terms of this audit, we will then put our heads together on how we make sure that we carry this program through.
Do you see yourself playing any role in this?
Definitely, we are going to do so. We are going to ensure that whatever process, whatever conceptualization is being talked about, the interests of students are going to be safeguarded. Students are not going to be the ones that bear, you know, whatever the consequences of all this. And that ultimately, whatever is done, will ensure that poor students, needy students are given financial aid in their numbers.
Do you believe that the South African government can afford free education?
We do.
What informs your conviction?
The South African government can afford free education because it has managed to do many things since 1994. The South African government has managed to advance a lot of social, changes in society. The South African government was the one that built very big stadiums for the 2010 World Cups. The South African government can still make a political will and a commitment to ensure that needy students are also accorded enough resources to attain free education. From where we are, we believe it's a matter of, leadership. It's a matter of political will from those charged with the responsibility to do so that the African child, the poor child, can be afforded an opportunity to study and contribute to the development of the country.
By political will, who are you talking about? You are in alliance with the ANC.
Yes.
Your offices are actually at Lutuli House.
Correct, you are correct.
So how do you now, you leave the people that you're supposed to toy at right next to you, or rather one floor above your offices, then you go and toy outside?
Look, the African National Congress agrees, by the way, to free education.
Now why is it not being implemented?
All progressive forces agree to free education.
But you see, Precious, these progressive forces that you're talking about, right? Are these not the forces that are supposed to champion your cause?
We are championing our cause, and everyone is in agreement with us. What is needed now, we need to understand what are the fiscal, allocations, what is Treasury saying, how can the budget...
But you know that, Precious. You know what Treasury is saying about education. You know how much it allocates.
We know what they are saying.
Yes.
Hence, we want education to be prioritized more. We want more resources to be channeled for education. We know what Treasury is saying. We know also that education is amongst the priorities of the government.
Yes.
But we want more priority. We want more resources to be channeled towards education.
And what happens to other divisions? Health can come second.
No, look, we are not in competition with other divisions. We are not saying people must only go to school and not live in houses. But we want the government responsible for a people to ensure that in whatever resources that it has, it must deliver on free education.
Who's failing you at government?
Who's failing us at government?
Who's not heeding your call?
The government is the government. The government is failing South African students.
You do not have any particular person?
No, I mean, it would be very narrow to, to just decide that a particular person is...
Is Dr. Blade Nzimande doing well?
The Minister of Higher Education has done, quite a number of things and has transformed the department from the time he entered the department. But we are saying with what he has done, we want him to do more. We want him to deliver more.
So he's failing.
The Minister of Higher Education, don't put words in my mouth.
No, I'm not.
The minister,
I want you to answer my question.
I explained to you that it's an economic issue. It's an issue of the fiscus. It's an issue of the restructuring of the resources of the country. It's an issue of ensuring that those in the treasury, when planning is taking place and implementation of such, the department of which Dr. Blade Nzimande is leading be allocated more resources to deliver to black students, to poor students in general, and to previously disadvantaged students who are black.
Okay, so you're happy with this record?
Of course, as SASCO, we cannot pressing a department, but we can say that the department has been able to do certain things, but we want the department to do more. Our anticipation is high. We want them to achieve even greater from what they've done.
Mr. Msulwa, Precious Panda, thank you very much. That was question time for today. We welcome your feedback. Our email address, questiontime@sabc.co.za. Our Twitter handle @questiontime24 from me and the crew. Have yourself a wonderful time. Goodbye.